For nerdy news, you're in the right place.
Great. This guy's gonna be late again.
This is the Nerdy News Rundown.
I got plenty of time.
On today's show, the MCU. Is Hulk inside the Hulkbuster Armor? Legion. Is Professor X going to make an appearance in the second season? The DCEU. Is the Green Lantern Corps movie actually happening? We're going over all of that and your questions.
I'm gonna be late!
I'm your host, Josh Lucas, broadcasting live from Uncanny in the King of Prussia Mall, Philadelphia. Let's get this show started. Hello, all of you beautiful nerds from around the globe. What is up, everybody? It's Josh. This is the Nerdy News Rundown, about to give you all the news going on in the geeky world out there. If you had tried to check us out on the live stream, I apologize about that. Growing pains with the live stream. It worked for a little bit, dropped out, so we're just going to do a tape show today and try to nail down the live stream by the end of the week. Maybe we'll try again on Thursday or Friday. I do want to put a small disclaimer out there. I don't know if I'll be in Uncanny tomorrow. There is a massive blizzard heading towards Philadelphia, and I feel as though it will be like Hoth out here. So I don't really have a snow speeder, so I'll probably be at home. So I may broadcast tomorrow from inside my room with the snow sort of just snowing and blowing outside. We'll see what happens. I, of course, want to shout out Uncanny for sponsoring the show. Uncanny, awesome store, 3 locations. If you're in the Philadelphia area, go check them out. Go get into Uncanny. Get a pull list. Buy some comics. Get some cool nerd apparel. All this sweet stuff in front of me is available for purchase. I'm really fond of the Godzilla thing myself. Now, before I move into the first topic of the day, I got to do a little shameless plug. If you watched the show yesterday, you'll know that I plugged my comic book, Robin Hood Eon's Edge. This book is a cyberpunk retelling of the Robin Hood story. It's a really, really cool book, actually. If you see here, this is the cover on the left side, and then there is the interior art. There's a really cool sort of detective noir thing going on in the book itself. It takes place way in the future. Everybody is eating synthetic food. It's causing like people to sort of die, and that's not good. And so the most valuable thing on the planet is real food. So if you think that sounds kind of cool, you like Robin Hood, you like robots and different things like that, check it out. It's got a lot of references to Star Wars and different things that have inspired me as a creator. So I'm going to link that in the description below. We have the digital copies available, and we're going to have physical copies available very, very soon. So please, if you like supporting the channel, supporting me and stuff like that, go check it out. But let's get into the first topic of the day. Now, the first topic of the day is a very interesting MCU rumor. This has to do with Hulk perhaps being inside of the Hulkbuster armor. Now, I don't know if you've heard this or not. This is a rumor that was circulating online. It began after we saw the first trailer for Infinity War. A lot of people sort of ripped that thing apart, tried to find out what was going on, and they noticed that this Hulkbuster armor was moving very differently than it had moved in the past. It did not look like Tony was piloting this thing. It looked as though someone else was piloting it, and some people speculated that the way that it sort of drags the knuckles and sort of moves around was very Hulk-esque, right? And so right up until a couple days ago, this was just sort of some speculation out there. This was something that people had talked about, but there was no real evidence to suggest this, right? Well, recently that changed. And, you know, as you'll know, we're getting a lot of promotional stuff. A lot of toys are coming out. There's a lot of stuff dropping for Infinity War. I'm super excited about it. But one of the things was a toy that released online that's like the hulked out Hulkbuster toy, okay? And it literally has Hulk coming out of the Hulkbuster armor. Very interesting, right? And so we think that there might be legitimacy to this rumor that started back in the day, right? And so the question becomes like, why would Banner be in the Hulkbuster armor? Why would Hulk be in armor? Why wouldn't he just be Hulk fighting? You know, what is going on here? Why would this make sense? And one of the things people think is going on online is that Hulk, the last time we saw Banner actually was on the Rainbow Bridge in Thor Ragnarok, where he transformed into Hulk to save the day. But before that, he had a lot of trepidation as far as wanting to transform into the Hulk again, because Banner believes if he does that, he will be lost. He will not be able to come back. Maybe he'll be gone forever. And so at the beginning of Infinity War in the trailer, we see Hulk sort of thrown into the Sanctum Sanctorum, which is a nice call to what happened to Silver Surfer in the original ThanosQuest storyline. But essentially, Hulk is going to be thrown to Earth into the Sanctum, and then he transforms into Banner. He hits the ground and becomes Banner, right? So if he gets up and once again does not want to transform into the Hulk because he's afraid of being lost, that could be a possible explanation. And Tony could be giving him access to the Hulkbuster armor because he did technically help create that armor, and perhaps that would be a way for Banner to be able to try to help and fight back. A lot of people are also thinking perhaps he just uses that armor to transport Hulk to Wakanda. So if there's a big showdown in Wakanda and we need to get the Hulk over there, and we don't, have a Quinjet on hand, we could just put him into the Hulkbuster armor and sort of jettison him over to Wakanda. So that's what some people think is going on. I think it might be a situation where Hulk does not want to transform, or perhaps is unable to transform because of something that Thanos does to him, maybe with a gem, maybe, something else. But I believe it's going to just be Banner over there trying to still help in the fight, although he's unable to become the Hulk. And then I think what's going to happen is he'll be able to sort of become the Hulk again, bust out of the armor, perhaps have some of the armor still on him, which would be kind of cool. A different kind of armor could look pretty sick, and that's kind of what I think's going on there. So that's the theory. That's the news. I'm very interested to hear what you guys think about this in the comments section. So hit me up. Let me know. What do you think? Is Banner in the Hulkbuster armor? Is that too crazy? What do you think? Could we have a Hulk plus armor? I mean, would that sort of buff him? Is that like a super-powered Hulk? What do you think, guys? I mean, Infinity War is right around the corner. We're hearing all sorts of craziness about this movie. I can't wait. I'm sure you can't wait either. So let me know in the comment section. What do you think about this Hulk thing? Man, is Hulk in the Hulkbuster? I don't know. You tell me, guys. So that's the story. Let's get in to our next topic. This is a pretty cool topic. I actually love what we're about to talk about, and that would be Legion. Now, if you guys have not seen the first season of Legion, I highly recommend that you go do that. This show focuses on the character of David, who is the Legion character from the comics. He is Professor Xavier's son, and he's massively powerful, but he has multiple personalities, and all of the power that he has is actually segmented into the personalities that he has. This is, of course, in the comics. I'm talking from the comics now. So this character has a bunch of power, but it's segmented into multiple personalities. And so he has these different personalities that have different powers. It's a very interesting take on it. Noah Hawley, who is the guy that did the Fargo series, which is a very, very good television show, he made this show. And Legion is so trippy and it's so bizarre, but great filmmaking and great storytelling. And I absolutely love the show. Unabashedly love that show, and I highly recommend that people go check it out. But the news is that we may be seeing Professor X in Season 2. We're getting Season 2, I believe, on April 3rd. Now, slight spoilers for Season 1. You do get a sort of cartoon version of a character known as the Shadow King and Professor X battling in the first season. You get to see that go down, and you also get the exact chair that Professor X uses in the X-Men movies. That wheelchair literally makes an appearance in the first season of Legion. And recently, the stars were talking behind the scenes, and it's the exact chair from the studio. So they sent it up. I think they shoot in Vancouver. They sent it up in this big wooden box. And it was this like ceremonial moment where they sort of unpacked it and looked at the wheelchair, and it was pretty wild. But there's so much that links the X-Men universe to the show, mainly the Professor X character. Now, Patrick Stewart was actually on a talk show with the main actor of Legion, and they were like talking about it last year. And Stewart literally said, I would absolutely come on to the show. And they joked about being father and son and different things like that. Now, that in and of itself, that's not really news. That's just actors talking. But recently, when speaking to Collider, that same actor sort of teased that it may be possible that we will be getting Professor X in the show. He was sort of coy about it, kind of hints to the fact that it might happen, you never know sort of thing. And wow, what an interesting way to tie it in. And if you're Fox and you're sort of looking down the barrel of the Disney purchase and yet still trying to do unique things and sort of, put your stamp on things, I think this would be amazing. I mean, The Gifted is a great show. It has an interesting way of dealing with the X-Men continuity. I think if you brought in either version of Professor X, I would be completely down with it. I'd really like the Patrick Stewart version, but either version would be really cool, and I'd be excited to check it out. So that's kind of the news, but let me know. Guys, have you seen Legion, the season 1? Are you incredibly excited the way I am for season 2? And what do you think about Professor X being in season 2? Would that be pretty cool? My thought is that if they did that, it could sort of bring more eyeballs onto the show, which I think would be great. If everybody knows who Professor X is, knows who the X-Men are, and so if you have that going on, I think it does nothing but builds the audience for an already great show. So those are my thoughts, but I definitely want to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. So let me know what you think about all of that. So let's get into our next topic of the day. This is DCEU news, and this has to do with the Green Lantern Corp movie. Okay, so very, very interesting news out there. This movie is, just like a lot of the other DCEU movies, has been sort of in production hell. That's what they call it in Hollywood, right? It's had multiple people attached to it. They've been talking about it for what seems like years, but now it is actually getting some traction once again because it is being reported that they are closing in on Christopher McQuarrie as the director of the Green Lantern Corps movies. Now, if you don't know who Christopher McQuarrie is, he has an incredible pedigree. He's been directing films like Mission Impossible. He also directed Jack Reacher. Wait, let me see here. Yes, he directed Jack Reacher. He directed Mission Impossible Rogue Nation. Incredible dude. Was also a writer on The Usual Suspects, Edge of Tomorrow, Valkyrie, different movies like that. And so in and of itself, it is awesome that we're getting this kind of talent attached to the movie. But the question becomes, beyond that, it's possible now that we might be getting Tom Cruise as a Green Lantern, which could be pretty cool. So I don't know. I don't want to necessarily jump right into the Tom Cruise news, but let's talk about this Green Lantern movie. Now, what we know so far is that the movie is supposed to be sort of a buddy cop movie, and I think they were going to go with Jon Stewart and Hal Jordan. I think they were going to do the Ebony Ivory sort of thing, play off of that, and I think they're going to focus on like the model of a cop movie, like a literal buddy cop movie, but in space. So that's what's really interesting about the Corps. They can take some of the flavor that has gone on in like the Guardians of the Galaxy and the way that they've expanded stuff in the MCU and model this movie behind that. Go to all sorts of different locations, focus on a big case, perhaps something going on with the Guardians, you know what I mean? Like the room to do Sinestro stuff. Right now it is unclear what's going to be happening with the DCEU, on the macro, but this is a movie that people have been very, very interested in. The problem, and I think the reason that this movie has not gotten off the ground yet, is because of the Ryan Reynolds Green Lantern movie, which I sort of have a soft spot for, but I understand is not a very good movie. So there's a lot of like bad PR associated with the Green Lanterns now. And I think Warner Brothers is terrified to move forward on this movie. We got a little bit of Green Lantern flavor in Justice League, but like really barely any. And there were reports then that we were supposed to actually get Abin Sur and Kilowog in that movie. They were literally, remember that scene that was in the trailers where Alfred's like, "Oh, he said that you'd come. I just hope you're not too late." That was supposed to be 2 Green Lanterns that he was supposed to meet with, and Joss was excited to do that, and Warner Bros. Was like, "No, you're not doing that. No Green Lanterns." And so if if these rumors are to be believed and they really do get Christopher McQuarrie here, I mean, not only do you have a just standout talent that would be attached to it, but I think, and this is where we get into the Tom Cruise news, that you could potentially see Tom Cruise as either Hal Jordan or Kyle Rayner. Now, think what you will about Tom Cruise as far as a person, but as an actor, the dude is incredible. He's an incredible talent. Did you know that Tom Cruise was actually going to be Tony Stark in the MCU? And I think he would have crushed it. I think he would have done an incredible job. I'm glad we got Robert Downey Jr., but I really like Tom Cruise. I think he'd be great. So if, McQuarrie's name attached to the Green Lantern Corps movie means that we could potentially get Tom Cruise as a Green Lantern, I think that would be dope. I would be super down for that. And, depending on who they get for the Jon Stewart character, I'm sure there's a lot of good, talented people out there. I want Idris Elba. That's sort of what I would want. And I would love to see 2 actors of the caliber of Idris Elba and Tom Cruise together in the Green Lantern movie. Green Lantern is one of my favorite properties. I've always loved the concept and idea of Green Lanterns. So that's sort of the story out there, guys. I mean, what do you think about this news? Do you think that McQuarrie will indeed do this? Are you excited to see a Green Lantern Corps movie, or has that ship sort of sailed for you? And what do you think about Tom Cruise being Hal Jordan or Kyle Rayner in the Green Lantern movie? I'm very interested to know what everybody thinks about that. Hey, Rob, what do you think about that?
Too old to be Kyle Rayner.
He says he's too old to be Kyle Rayner.
I agree. Tom Cruise, Idris Elba team up.
Yes.
Would bring credibility to the Green Lantern.
Yes. Tom Cruise, Idris Elba. You heard it here. Rob and Josh in agreement. Boop. Or they could just cast us, Rob. That would be kind of cool, too. So, moving right along to our 4th topic, guys. This is more MCU news. I know, right? A lot of MCU news, but that's just how it goes. They're sort of crushing it right now. So, it was recently announced that Disney has gotten all kinds of dates set up for when it comes to the future of the MCU movies. And it's craziness, man. They have 6 films now slated for 2021 and 2022. And, a lot of people are speculating now about what this could possibly mean. That's a lot of movies. That's 3 a year again for those 2. These would, of course, be past Phase 4, and so people have sort of begun to speculate and wonder what's going on with these movies, and so I kind of wanted to talk about it. Now, the one thing I wanted to address right away, well, here, let's just talk about the dates themselves. So, 5/7/21, 7/30/21, 11/5/21, 2/18/22, 5/6/22, and 7/29/22. Okay, literally untitled Marvel films. That's what those are going to be. And so there have been some things in the news recently that people are talking about. So let's talk about the female Avengers film. So the A-Force movie, or the solo Black Widow movie, or whatever you want to call it, I think this movie only works as an ensemble cast, right? I mean, I love a lot of the female characters that we have in the MCU currently, but I really don't know if any of them can sort of do a solo movie. And I think that, and I'm going to get to this in a second, I don't think Marvel's really interested in doing many solo movies in general. But let's just, this is something that has sort of been spearheaded by Scarlett Johansson. She's really interested in this. Kevin Feige seems to be throwing some support around it. Other people seem to be throwing support around it. I think it could work. So is that one of these movies? It's possible. I don't know. They'd have to be really smart about it. They have to build the right cast. And I honestly would like, and call me crazy here, but I'd like a diegetic reason for all of these females to join up and to go after a threat. Like if there was a story reason that made sense for them all to be in a unit, I'd be way more apt to sort of be into it. And here's the thing. Marvel has sort of earned this right. I think that I have so much faith in what Kevin Feige and the team over there is able to do that I would go check this movie out. And if it's dope, I'm going to sing its praises. You know what I mean? So it's one of those things where, maybe it's not even necessarily targeted for me, an all-female thing. Like, I don't know. I feel weird about, like, am I supposed to be really into that? I don't know. But I trust Marvel, and I like these characters. So if it's the right story, if it's the right thing, then I would be into that. Now, I don't think that the Spider-Man Homecoming 3 or whatever the third one in the trilogy for those Marvel films, I don't think that's on that slate either. So you might see a thing where there's 4 of these movies, because I believe that is not considered Marvel slate. Like, Marvel Studios doesn't create the date for those. I think. I could be wrong there. So what are these movies? And in general, what is Phase 4 going to look like for the MCU? Well, my belief here is that, because we've heard so many things about how things are going to be way different after Avengers 4, that Phase 4 might not even be a phase, right? That's something that Feige has said. And I think what you're going to see is, instead of solo movies, instead of a structure that builds up, introducing new characters, trilogies, sequels and things like that, I think they're going to go for bigger movies. And instead of focusing on the characters themselves, they will focus on sort of storylines. And so the same way that you saw Captain America 3 be Civil War, I think you're going to see the movies in Phase 4 focus on events, right? So you could see, a version of Secret Avengers, even though we're going to get that in Infinity War. You could see a version of Secret Wars. You could see Civil War 2 or, all different kinds of storylines that happened in the comics. And I think that the movie will be called that instead of like Guardians 3 or 4. So instead of like Guardians 4 focusing on Nova, or even doing a Nova movie, like, you could do a cosmic story, that is an event that happened in Marvel Comics, and sort of pull different events in and make that the actual movie. So I think that's the direction that we're going to go in, actually. So I think you could see a scenario where you have some trilogies, some sequels, and some solo stuff. But I think the focus of the films is going to be on the stories, not necessarily the characters, because I actually don't think that the MCU is going to continue to have like a congruent timeline moving forward with its films. And if you just look at what's happening with the films currently, there's sort of evidence to already support that. I mean, Ant-Man and the Wasp sort of taking place in a time before Infinity War, which will take place. The movie takes place afterwards, but it takes place before. The Captain Marvel movie taking place in the 90s. These are interesting things that the MCU is doing, because I don't think they want to be tied to that structure anymore. I mean, what they have done is incredible, and they've like almost perfectly nailed it. A few little missteps here and there, but overall the continuity in the canon is incredibly solid. But they don't necessarily have to continue that past Phase 4. So, I mean, they could just focus on the stories. That's what my gut tells me they are going to do. And there are a ton of great storylines. I mean, I don't know if they want to do like Secret Empire and sort of touch that sort of stuff, but there are plenty of events, plenty of things that happen with the comics that I think could make really compelling movies. And focusing on that, I think, is the way to go. And quickly, too, before I move into the fan questions, I do not think that any of these movies that they're slating are the Fox movies, because A, I don't think they can technically do that until the deal finalizes, and B, I think that's going to be its own separate thing. Will things move around and shift if the deal goes through? Yeah, probably. And the most important aspect of that will be the introduction of mutants, the idea of the mutant conflict, the mutant problem, whatever you want to call it, into the MCU, but in Marvel movies. And so they can more easily, like if they pick a date and, let's say they want to do a more hard-edged book, I almost want to say X-Force, but it defeats what I'm trying to explain here. Let's just say Secret Avengers. Let's say they do a Secret Avengers film. I think then you could introduce a mutant character onto that team, and that's a much easier way to sort of segue into this new MCU, which has mutants into it. So that's kind of where my thoughts are at with that. But I'm interested to know, what do you guys think? I mean, do you agree that they're going to change things up in Phase 4, not really do the solo movies anymore? Or are you like, nah, they're going to continue. They'll do a Cap 4, you know what I mean? They'll do a Thor 4. I think it's possible, but I'd personally like to see them kind of abandon that model and go for stories, like actual stories, like, the scroll invasion. Like, just do a whole movie dealing with the scroll invasion. And it could be like a 2 hour, 45-minute movie. And it uses the cast of characters that we already know. That would be dope. Or maybe break that up into 2 movies, right? Like, do Infinity War type stuff in your movies. I think that's where the future of the MCU should go. That's kind of my opinion, because I'm sort of getting tired. Even Black Panther, which I love, even Doctor Strange, which I love, I'm sort of like, yeah, okay, I like it, but like, what's going on with the rest of the world? I need to know what's going on in the MCU. Like, they should all be. I want to read the Avengers books, right? I want to watch the Avengers movies, not necessarily all the tie-ins, right? So that's kind of where my head's at. But I definitely want to know what you guys think about all of that in the comment section below. Okay, so let's get into some fan questions here. Now, interestingly, both of the fan questions that I pulled for today all have to do with the Han Solo movie. And so let's buckle up, everybody. It's Han Solo time. By the way, real quick, too, I should mention, there's an amazing amount of Star Wars content coming out this week. The Last Jedi novelization, the finale of Rebels. So, like, the rest of my day is spent in Star Wars land, and I'm going to be doing so much content, and I'm very excited for the potential guest I'm going after for this Sunday's episodes of Nerds Talk Star Wars, but I'll get into that later. So, let's talk some Han Solo. So, Benjamin Lambert was hitting me up with a question. He was asking about Cad Bane. He was asking about the Kalish, the possibility that the Nest villain is a Kalish person, and different aspects like that. What was the Arabash on the helmet and different things like that. And so I wanted to go into all of that. Now, Cad Bane, like, let's talk some Cad Bane. Whatever happened to him? You know what? I gotta be honest here. I don't necessarily remember how he exited Clone Wars, but I don't believe he was killed. And something else that was very interesting here is that I was at Star Wars Celebration, and I'm actually going to see, I should have checked this before the show, but I have a video from Star Wars Celebration that's an animation that wasn't finished of Cad Bane and Boba Fett. And they have a shoot-off, and it's, like, fantastic. It was shot, animated, just not brought up to the full quality. And so I'll have to dig through my photographs and stuff from when I was at Celebration, but I believe that Filoni said that Cad Bane is still around. I'm totally blanking on that, though. I don't think he was definitively killed in the series, and in general, that series was ended before Dave was ready, and so there's probably a lot of loose ends that are, not finalized in the show because Dave was like, oh, crap, we got to end it. What's most important? Here we go. Boom. Yoda, Force priestesses, blah, blah, blah. And so, do I want to see Cad Bane in the Han Solo movie? Abso-freaking-lutely. I would love it. And I don't know how that would work in the time period, but there would be a much younger Cad Bane probably. And I'm into that, man. I am so into that. I think that could be cool, even if it's just in a cantina scene. You know, it'd be really cool. Cad Bane and Boba Fett on opposite ends of a table, or maybe they're the players with Lando and Han while they're playing Sabacc, you know what I mean? That would be dope. So I'd be really, really into that. But in general, I think that the Han Solo movie becomes a sort of platform for those kind of very interesting cameos. Give us all the member berries. Like, the reason that we're going to see this movie is to be reminded of our love of Star Wars. Just go into it and just experience all of the nostalgia and stuff. So that's one of the things that I think Disney does well with the Star Wars story movies. Those are sort of like a nice little sugary treat for all of the fans that really love the old stuff and maybe aren't so crazy about the new saga. And so I think Han Solo will do that as well. Now, there was another question here about Darth Vader being in the Han Solo movie. And I think there were a lot of rumors that actually suggested that, yes, he's 100% going to be in that movie. And I think they could use him sparingly, but effectively. And I mean, if you're trying to sell the movie, if you're trying to get people to see it, you put Vader in it. I mean, look, the Vader scene in Rogue One, amazing. Like, I know people that were like, hey, Rogue One was okay, but that Vader scene, though, like, I am so into that Vader scene. Like, that's where the hype is. And so I think there's room for that in the Han Solo movie. I would be weary if you get too much Vader, he sort of overtakes the film, and I wouldn't want that to happen. But I would be excited to see him in there And it sort of makes sense for him to be in there considering the time frame, especially considering what's going on with the Wookiees. If the Wookiees were slave labor to help build part of the Death Star, it's so easy. It's so easy to plug Vader in to that movie. But as a huge Boba Fett fanboy, I want Boba. I want the Vader scene that we got in Rogue One and the way we elevated Vader's, combat status and wow, like he's able to do all that. I want that kind of a scene, but for Boba Fett. And ideally, as a fanboy, I want the part of Empire where Vader says, no disintegrations. I want that to come into play in Han Solo. Like maybe Vader and him are like on a mission together and Boba just disintegrates somebody and Vader just literally like smacks his head. Like, you know what I mean? That would be kind of funny. So that'd be the payoff for me. As far as the Kalesh thing, I don't think so, man. I don't think that he is that. He does sort of move that way. I understand what you were saying. He sort of moves that way on the train. It's possible that he's alien for sure. And who knows? Maybe it's Kalesh. But I don't know if we've seen them in canon at all, actually. They might only be in Expanded Universe. So I don't know. I appreciate the question, though. I'm not 100% sure on that. Overall, I'm pretty excited for the Han Solo movie, and I think there's room for all sorts of cool cameos. I don't mind the cameos in films like that because you're going to have a good time, and you want to be reminded of all the things that you love about Star Wars. So I think that's the place you do it in those sort of films, and I'm excited for the movie. So thank you guys very much for the question. Please drop a question in the comment section below on this video, and I will address it in either tomorrow's show or on Thursday's show because, once again, the blizzard is coming. I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, so we'll see. But either way, I will be talking to you guys again very, very soon. Once again, thank you to Uncanny for sponsoring the show. Go give them some love on social media. They just posted a funny picture on Instagram with no hashtags, Rob. I gotta help Rob out with these hashtags. But yeah, go check out their Instagram, their Facebook. Give them some love. Tell them that the Den of Nerds sent you. Tell them Josh sent you. And that would be cool because it helps us out as well. So, as I always say, I hope you're having an awesome and nerdy day. And I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.